For all those who appreciate the work that we're doing here on Standing for Truth, please hit that subscribe button because we are just getting started.
For $5, question for, this isn't addressed to anyone, so either of you can comment on this if you'd like. I have a feeling this is for Standing, just knowing the history of it.
Probably.
Swamidass actually concedes the most recent for allele argument actually takes millions of designed alleles into account. These aren't made by mutation. Explain, please, dude.
Okay, so I'm guessing that's for me.
That's what
Yeah, no problem. So this one's a pretty technical one. Let me explain it to the audience. So I like to reiterate the argument as best I can. So this TMR4A, all it stands for is time to most recent for what? For alleles, okay? So this analysis, what it does is it traces the origin of our autosomal DNA differences back in time. And also, though, this is important, okay, because it comes down to recombination. This analysis actually incorporates both recombination and mutation. So the researcher can then follow lineages to the point where this TMR4A point is where 4 lineages are present in the human population. But this is why I pointed out that this model only pretends to assume the created heterozygosity model, because our model treats millions of DNA variants as the result of de novo creation. That means, given the position definition of allele, you're looking at millions and millions of alleles in the created heterozygosity model. So if I were to just accept the terms used in this TMR4A analysis, let me just accept it, okay? Here's the thing. We would be looking at millions of lineages, as I pointed out, in Adam and millions in Eve. That's why the next question comes down to, okay, how are you going to break up all of these alleles? That's the next question to be answered, and that's where I would point to gene conversion. Okay, remember, more heterozygosity means more effective gene conversion and recombination. And we know the PRDM9 gene, okay, helps with recombination, for example, as I showed those papers. So I hope that was sufficient enough, but good question.
Can I just say something super fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
I still don't understand why the created heterozygosity, you have to put the allele definition like at the base, because the easiest way to get from one nucleotide to another nucleotide is just a mutation. Recombination rates don't happen nearly fast enough for recombination to explain just all of the different lineages on Earth, right? You have like 1.4 recombination events per chromosome per generation. You're not going to get, tons and tons of haplogroups from that. It just doesn't work like that. Also, I'm pretty sure Argweaver, the program he used, does account for like differing recombination rates. You have to like standardize it by using something back through time. I forget how it's specifically done, but those are just 2 things.
Yeah, those are some good points. Here's the thing, though, and I read an excerpt from a paper earlier where it shows that just because there's more diversity in a population, it doesn't mean that means that population is necessarily older. Like Africans have more working PRDM9 gene sites, and yet what do they have? Evidence for more recombination versus Europeans. Europeans are highly inbred. What happens with inbreeding? You get more levels of heterozygosity or more levels of homozygosity, which would reduce allelic variability. Now, here's the thing. The PRDM9 gene is well known to regulate, control, and influence recombination through hotspots. So, like I said, the created heterozygosity model would assume what? More heterozygosity, which means more functioning PRDM9 genes and more effective gene conversion. Gene conversion can actually split apart these design variants properly and more effectively. I want to point out one last thing. This is why I say that argument only pretends to assume created heterozygosity, because Dr. Carter and Dr. Sanford make it clear in their papers that these design variants would have been created within helpful and beneficial linkage groups. Like, how silly is it to assume that God creates Adam and Eve. He front loads all of these DNA differences, but then, oops, God accidentally placed them in sections of our DNA that can't recombine or can't work with gene conversion. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, more PRDM9 gene sites in the past, less mutation accumulation, more levels of heterozygosity means more rounds of recombination, more effective rounds of gene conversion. So I think it's a plausible answer. I don't expect the evolutionists to tap out on it, but I'm happy with it. I think it fits well.